Aloha, everyone from
Hi.
Hawaii. Welcome to the very first episode of Breaking the Surf. We are a community of digital nomads, international, amazing people doing great things for the world. And I'm joined by the one and only Kyle Hudson. Am I pronouncing it good?
Yes, you are.
Aloha, Kyle. I mean, we are located kind of in the same building, in the same space. You're just in another office, and I'm here in the conference room just to make the sound better. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm in my surf break room. So I'm in my home that I have been in for weeks and weeks. So this is fun.
Beautiful. For those who don't know, most of you know, Surfbreak is a co-living space based in Hawaii and Puerto Escondido. We host amazing and really smart people from all over the world. They come to do different things, mostly to relax, connect, but get a network going. But the reason why Kyle came, it's fantastic. So, Kyle, do you want to tell us how this whole thing started? How this podcast was kind of your idea, and then I got like crazy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So I think I am here in Hawaii for 8 weeks with, so my startup, Stacklist, was accepted into an accelerator here on Oahu, which is the Blue Startups Accelerator. So essentially we spend 12 weeks with Blue Startups just focusing on our business and our offering and our messaging, and really looking to grow investment and to grow the company. And what better place to stay here in Honolulu, but Surf Break. Being here for 8 weeks, my co-founder and I thought it was such an amazing opportunity to essentially be able to co-live sort of near each other, but also have community and all of the amenities baked in. And then when I met you and we started talking about Surf Break, it was like, you've got to tell these stories. You've got to tell all the amazing stories of the people who come through this vibrant community and what they do, and why they're here and how it changed them.
I love how both of us have the same story. I'll make it a little bit more like spicy and dramatic. We're on this hike that we asked Kyle because he's really humble, and he told us what he's doing in Surf Break, this co-living space that we host. Is actually using his service because it's just so good. And we're hiking and we're sweating, and you know how sweat releases endorphins and oxytocin, and we're like, and then he keeps on telling us how amazing the service is and how it's helping so many people. And then I thought, oh my gosh, we need to tell this to everyone, everyone, everyone. And also we need to hear the story about Vicky and Tom and Brant. And they're such good people. We need to tell this. How do we do this? And then, of course, Kyle, amazing as he is, he's like, we could do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, let's do a podcast. Let's tell the story about this amazing digital nomads that come to Hawaii and Puerto Escondido, and they are changing the world. And I couldn't think of anyone better but you because your story is so inspiring. So before we dive in, the hows, the whens, and could you tell us what is a stock list? Am I even pronouncing it well?
Mm-hmm.
Stock
Yeah.
list, the stock list, the
Stacklist.
stock list. Oh, it's so
Um,
catchy. Okay. Mr. Hudson, what is a stock list?
Stacklist was born out of an idea and it was really scratching my own itch, or my wife and I scratching our itches, which was, uh,
I love that. We need to scratch the
my
itches.
wife and
Okay.
I scratch our itches. So, yeah, that it's not really, when you start to think about it, all you curate your life every day with whether it's like, it could be a cell phone case, or it could be, a hard drive that I use for when I record videos, or it could be a restaurant, or also the people I know, the books I read, the movies I watch. Once you start to really realize that all of those things are technically scattered across 40, 50 more platforms and apps and services and all those sort of things, there's no way to sort of search your digital memory. There's no way to search your sort of digital life in a way that
Right.
I should be able to. If you ask me, that's so amazing.
There's
You
so
lived in
many
New York.
apps.
Oh,
So
so
many
many apps,
apps.
and all of them want you to be the one place. Like Airbnb's like, "Oh, we hope people just do their traveling in Airbnb," and I'm sure there are some people that do, but we don't. We sometimes I use hotels.com, and sometimes it's VRBO, and sometimes I just book with the hotel. And so all of these are like little digital breadcrumbs that are scattered to the wind. So when someone says, "That's amazing, you went to Venice and you told such great stories. Can you send me some of the places you went?" Your brain sort of glitches and thinks, you know what, I got to sit down and like go through all of these different apps and platforms. And then I have to make like a Google Doc or an ugly formatted spreadsheet or an email, or maybe I just like text bomb you all of these links. And now you have the same problem that all of the things that I have given you live in your chat history with me in text. And so there's no way to stitch that together. And so Stacklist is like the one place where you save and recall and organize like all the stuff in your digital life. And then once it's there, you also have a profile that you could share that with the world, which feels more. It feels more utility and like a different sort of connection than me just recording um, videos of me talking about places that I went. That I'm actually sharing the places that I went.
And more organized, and it saves you time. So I'm understanding that if you go to Venice
Hmm.
and you come home and you tell me, oh, this trip was amazing, and I'm like, tell me everything. I want to know everything. You just share with me the link. You just share with me on Stacklist, and I can kind of recreate the places that you've been, what you love, the restaurants. Is that, did I get the
Yeah. So yeah, I could basically, now that I have a lot of that stuff already in Stacklist, if I search my Stacklist for Venice, Italy, I could just grab 8 or 9 places and I hit a button and say, put it in a stack. And then I add a few notes. I'm like, hey, you were asking me about the places I went in Venice. Be sure and check
Hmm.
out this one. Let me know if you're going to go. Maybe I'm going to be there, whatever the sort of context is. And then I text that to you, and you don't have to have Stacklist to use that collection of information. But if you do sign up for Stacklist for free, you hit save, and all those things I sent you are just saved in this one place. And so now you start adding to it. When you go on the trip, you start finding new places and you put those in Stacklist. And then when you come back, people are asking you where you went in Italy, and you have my stuff plus your stuff, and you bundle that really quickly and you send it out. And so now you're actually sort of doing the physical sharing of places
Right,
and
right,
people and
right.
things versus just being like, well, I'm going to talk about it, but it would take me a minute to pull those things together.
And I love the idea. We'll describe it more and more later. But I want to I want you to share, please, what was the aha moment? Because over and over we talked about this is so simple but so useful, and how no one else thought about it. So do you recall the moment on where, what were you wearing, where, who
Eh,
were you with, what were you
Yeah.
sitting, and you were like, this is it.
There were sort of two moments that led to this. One was I went on a trip with my wife. I think at the
Uh,
time
the
we'd only been.
stretcher. I love it.
Yes, yes. Bonnie is amazing, and we had only been dating 2 months, and we decided to go to Europe together. What better way to get to know someone? Um, and so we went to Paris and Venice, and then back to Paris. But when we went to Venice, we one of the things that I had found from an experience perspective was this old Doge's palace that they had a private opera, and there were only like 40, 50 people in the audience. And so you got
Oh,
this private, intimate opera performance, and then after every act, you would move to different rooms. And so it was very much this like, experiential theater opera experience, but you're also doing it in a place that was just like, so old and so much history. So I come back to New York and I describe this experience, and over time I had people say, "Could you send that to me?" Or like, "I want to make sure I capture that because I want to go to Venice and I want to make sure I do that." And I couldn't find it for the life of me. Like I couldn't find it in my Gmail history. I looked at like some of the sites I use, like Viator or TripAdvisor. Like I couldn't find the way I booked it. Uh,
yeah.
and so I had this little moment where it felt so weird to have such an experience or to have something that I have sort of personally done in my life that I don't have a way to sort of save or
To
share that.
share it.
Right. And so that was one moment. And then fast forward to 2017, my wife and I I think by that time we had a 1 year old. We were living in Brooklyn. We went out for a date night. Once every 4 months we get a babysitter. We go out for a date night. Um, and we were talking about this very similar thing, but in the context of people saying, I'm coming to New York, where should I go? And I remember very specifically this like physical manifestation of saying it should be as easy as having essentially a stack of index cards and just saying like here, like I just want to hand these to you. But it's not that easy from a physicality perspective because your
Right.
digital life is sort of so disparate and it's disorganized and it's decentralized. It's all over the place. And so you actually either have to mentally keep up with that stuff or you have to spend time bouncing around to all sorts of different places. I did run a stat recently that said that most people at work these days, leaning more towards the information worker, switches apps or tasks on their computer like 1,200 times a day. And so you're switching between all of these different apps and platforms, and you're sort of managing and balancing, email and Figma and calendar and CRM and sales and all these sort of things. And that task switching of 1,200 times a day at work can equate to about 5 weeks in a lifetime worth of
Wow.
just switching back and forth between trying to sort of like find things and put them together and
Time.
work on things. And so,
Yeah.
the idea that you have this one place of sort of digital memory of the things and that you can really easily sort of search. And I have a wish list of my son's birthday last year that in a couple of characters in one word, I could find it and I could just text it to you and then you would have it. And so being
I
able to have
love
that access is what
this.
we're really like pushing for.
I love this because humans are obsessed with saving time, which makes sense. You want time to spend it with your loved ones, doing good things, hopefully. But if you have a way to save 5 weeks of your life, I'll take it. I'll take it anytime. And I love the love story. We were talking about how, since I'm a neuroscience, I love the ideas that come when you're in love, the oxytocin and the dopamine and the serotonin. It helps you produce better and more ideas. We need to have her tell us what happens after. So you have the aha moment, and for sure, it's not from the aha moment to the empire you're building right now. I bet that there's a
No.
lot of little things going on. What happens next?
See, 17. So it was 7 years before we really started to activate it. I think we had between that time, that was we had William, our son, who was one at the time, and then we moved out of New York a couple of years later. I was working at a big consulting firm, a design firm that was owned by a consulting firm. And, it was one of those, you're working 12, 14, 16-hour days. And so you're really just hustling for the sort of corporate career. And so there wasn't really time or brain space to start exploring how this could come, together. Moved to Georgia, COVID happened. We were running our own sort of web design development agency. We had our second, Matthew came along. There was a lot of sort of moments. And then last year was sort of a transformational year for me. So I lost my mom in January, and then my grandfather like 3 weeks later, and then I hit my 45th birthday, and I was working in an agency, and we had just launched this huge website, and and it felt like I had done this like career website working for these big companies and sort of launching stuff, but in a cycle over and over and over and over again. And the way that I work is I always want to be learning and growing. And so there was this like moment in there where I sort of said, I'm all done sort of doing that cycle. I think also with the personal loss in the family. And I was also just like rationally thinking about life and what I want to sort of like teach and pass on to my boys and things like that. And so I made a commitment not to work for anybody else again. And I started by building a little product studio, and I built a couple of products, and Stacklist was the third. Like by the time I sort of worked through, I don't know why this analogy is like taking the wrapper off of the product. Like once I'd worked through a couple of products and I'd worked through the process of building and designing, I immediately, like I came back to the Stacklist piece, and I hired a developer to build a little ugly sort of working version of this. But what was funny is when I used it for the first time, I jumped like 10 years ahead of my mind. And I'm like, I can see where this is going to go. It was like seeing the Matrix, And so I was like, at that moment, I was like, uh oh, like
This
I'm
is
all in.
it.
This
And
is it.
I love how you mention what had to happen in order for you to finally jump into the pool. This is very common with the entrepreneurs that we have, the successful ones. There's always this hard moment. And my professor, Roger, he would used to say that in the darkness moments, in the darkness cave, that's where you can find the light or the courage or the gut to be like, okay, this is it. Tell me a little bit. I love the stories behind it. So you started small. What's your wife's intake? How's she feeling? How are the kids? Is everyone scared? Is supportive? What's
Right.
going on in your life?
I mean, Bonnie's always been supportive. We've tried lots of things together. We started a blockchain art design consultation company. We've started web design and development company. Like we've started stuff before, and we've been on our own, sort of away from having a steady paycheck before. This, however, we did talk about this one being much bigger. Obviously, if you're going to go build essentially a social network with utility on top, it's going to be a long, costly process. And so we had some money set aside from when we had explored Ether on the blockchain world, and had ridden a few waves. Like it was up, hooray, and then like it's way down, boo, and then we like went, it's up again. And during one of those, we just said, why don't we just liquidate it, and that becomes sort of like this little egg that we can start to explore what this would look like. So we did that, and we focused on that piece. We started hiring some developers and a designer, and we started building it out. But then once it starts to all come to fruition, and you start seeing people have the aha moment of what it's like to be able to sort
Yeah,
of
yeah,
save and organize and share
yeah.
stuff, then the train takes off, and now we are well beyond that little nest egg. But now we've raised money, and we're about to close our first round, and we'll end up raising a bigger round so that we can bring on more people and build bigger, better things.
I don't understand much about business, but RJ Martin, the founder of Surfbreak, the moment he understood this, he was like, wow, this is so big. This is amazing. And that's what got us to actually go deeper in exploring what it is and how easy it is. And actually, a product or service needs to feed what people need. And this is actually what we can do to make our lives, our trips, our restaurants, our visits so simple. So let's go back in time again. This is thriving. You're starting to grow the business. What happens that suddenly you come to Hawaii? How do you end up here?
Yeah, we got our first outside funding in December of last year, and then we actually ran into a VC firm that saw what we were doing and loved it. Started putting some money in. We started raising some more money, and then I had been on a trip out to California to do a little bit of a pitch and some networking and things like that, and came across the managing director, Shinoa, who runs Blue Startups, and had reached out, and she said you should apply to the accelerator. So I applied, and of course I looked at the website, and it's like it's located in Honolulu, and and this is so great, and you have you've got to come be on site for 8 weeks. I'm like imagining what that's like, and so. But I do a lot of these, you apply to conferences, you apply for awards, you apply for like all these
Right.
things, and you just sort of forget about it. Right. And then I got an invitation from David, who runs operations, and was like, "Hey, I'd love to do an interview." And I was like, "Okay." And of course,
Super David.
step one of 10, you're always kind of like, "Oh, this is kind of fun," but like I'm not really, I'm lightly entertaining it. So we do the call, and the call goes pretty well. And then I think it was within a day or so, it's like, okay, well, we want to do a second with the screening committee. Well, at that point now, it was like, okay, my co-founder Martina and I, we need to talk about this because Martina lives in the magician. Martina lives in Croatia, and so for someone from Croatia and someone from Atlanta, to essentially leave. We both have two kids on either side of the families to pick up and go live in Hawaii for 8 weeks. Now it's just sort of like, okay, we got to really figure out if this is
Now you're
something that
here
we
and
can.
this is fantastic. But yeah, to make the decision, what were they offering? I love the Blue Startups people, David, it's fantastic. But what was the thing that actually made you be like, okay, I need this? Because you had many options as well.
Yeah, I think it was. I think also because Martina and I both have families, and we've also been juggling, the family, and especially working remote, is it's nice, but it's also difficult at times when you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking, my brain and Martina's brain is just always running with ideas, and we could do this and we could do that, and I could try this, and I could talk, and I talk to people, and I do connections. At the same time, there are obviously big, like, um pockets of time that you need to turn all of that off and just sort of focus, from a family perspective. And sometimes that juggling is hard. So I would get up at 4 in the morning, and I would meet with Martina, and it was quiet on my side. It happened to be quiet on her side. So we would meet and we would do stuff. And then, but like trying to find that rhythm, it still is so different than being able for 8 weeks to just like fully commit every waking hour to sort of, and being, at the same place to be able to sort of dive into it. And then Blue Startups gave us some initial funding to also fund being able to come out here, and then there's sort of a promise for follow-on funding, and they introduced us to their investor network. So it just sort of also opened up other
Yes.
opportunities, and that all just seemed to be the right mix of what we were looking to do.
How do you discuss that with the family? And the reason on why I'm asking, we have and we host a Surfbreak many entrepreneurs, amazing people. Some of them have already done what you've done. They are thriving. Some others are starting to become more daring to do their own thing, but it takes a lot of guts. How do you say to your family, yeah, okay, help me, I'll be 8 weeks away?
I think we've also like Bonnie and I are explorers, and we love trying new things. And I think that we have a bigger, an appetite for risk and the unknown. She would say that I have the most appetite for risk and the unknown, which I do. I just don't have any like, okay, great, let's go do this, let's go do that. We move every couple of years, and part of why we move is also this idea of taking apart what your expectations and your habits and all these things, taking it apart and then putting it back together, and then you're sort of like, who am I now? And so she also was heavily, she's a fantastic designer, and she actually did a lot of the design for Stacklist early on, and so she was integral in the process. And so then when it actually sort of became like, oh, this, not that we didn't think it was going to be a real thing, but also when you start to get even more signal and confidence that other people are having money and contacts and effort and time, and focus into it, it becomes even more real. And so, yeah, I think when I told her, she was like, well, you won't need to make the boys lunches for the next 8 weeks. I'll take care of that. Like, she was just like, all right, go do it and go make this thing big. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously being lucky and blessed and all the things to have someone who's like, sweet, go get it, is a big part of it.
I love that. And that's a common thing that we hear from successful people at Surfbreak, the love and support of the people that they love. It doesn't necessarily need to be your wife. It can be your family, your friends, your sister, someone cheering for you and helping you carry the weight of the responsibility. That is fantastic. So I'm seeing Kyle packing from home, Atlanta to Hawaii. Dina, you co-founder, did you meet her before? Have you met in
We
person?
did. Yeah, we met. So Martina and I met because the first time I decided, like, okay, I've got to get a senior engineer to work on this. I Up to that point,
Right.
I had a couple of contractors kind of working on it. Martina was actually the first interview that I had, and we just sort of clicked both on
Right.
principles and work ethic and focus and all these sort of things. And we just sort of clicked from that first moment. But then it was a good, let's see, maybe 7 months before we went to New York for the first time and met. The first time is always slightly awkward. You're sort of like, you know, just trying to figure out how to like personally interact with each other in a physical space. Um, but then, I think we've been to New York twice or three times together, and then you sort of develop a more, a different rhythm in person than you do on Google Meet or Zoom or whatever. And so, but when we got here, there was a good foundation that we already had a good kind of rhythm for figuring out the ebb and flow of like, and there are times when we complete each other's sentences or we were thinking the same thing or whatever, but like that ebb and flow of sort of coming together and like working and then knowing kind of inherently when it's good to also then sort of separate and take your own time, put your headphones on, work, and then sort of come back together again. And so, yeah, we've found a good rhythm for that during our time in Hawaii, as well as just exploring the island and having fun.
And I've seen you both, the connection that you have. You're both fantastic people. And that's also so beautiful to learn that um, a business is run by good people that want good for the world, that they are transparent and very ethical. It really inspires us because we've seen other companies that, all they care is about the money, about growing. They don't care who they will destroy on the way to success. And that's absolutely not you. We have to have Martina telling her story and how you guys facing this company that keeps on growing. So I still want to talk a lot about stock list, but let's talk about Hawaii and Surfbreak. Once again, and we're going to have RJ here, our founder. We created this space. Well, he did. He built the whole thing and then he got an amazing team. And we follow his heart and his leadership. But his main goal was to create a network, a place where people like you can feel at home. They can feel supported. They can have everything they need so they can concentrate on succeeding, thriving, resting, enjoying Hawaii because, to have a beautiful paradise surrounding you, it kind of inspires you. So what got you to Surfbreak? What got you to us? How did you hear from us? How are you here? We're so
Yeah.
blessed you're here, but how?
So Shinoa, the managing director at Blue Startups, was, when we first started talking about logistics, we were like, how does this work? Do we just go get an Airbnb? And obviously different that, Martina and I both we have our own families and we are business partners, but also getting a single Airbnb together, is sort of like, do you get one? Do I get one? Do we stay in separate hotels? Do we like you're trying to figure out the logistics. And then when Chanel had said, well, you should look at this co-working, co-living space called Surfbreak, I pulled it up and immediately I was like, oh, this is where we're going. And I think it was either later that day or the next day, I reached out and applied, and then I got to talk to the lovely you for our
Yeah,
intake.
we're a
Yeah,
It was a bromance from moment zero. I was telling you yesterday, I get excited, so excited. We have such beautiful profiles. And when we heard your story, what you're creating, speed on how this is growing, it was fantastic. So we connect. You arrive to Surfbreak. Tell me your story as bold as you can, because there are some people that also want to come to the Blue Startups. Not easy to apply, not easy to get in. But once you're in, we have a home for you. If, of course, also you apply to Surfbreak and everything is approved. But how was the ride? Was it, tell me everything about Surfbreak, everything about your
yeah.
experience from your point of view.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, from day one, the experience was so easy applying. Having the call, and then once we got accepted, it really we didn't have to think about too much. I'm gonna sneeze.
Uno, dos, tres, salud, vida y amor.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that was a good one.
Oh, that feels so
So
good.
yeah, um, but Yeah, when we arrived, I mean, it was so straightforward. We already, we had our room code. We came right in, and we just plopped our stuff down, and everything is right there that you need. A bathroom for me is right across the hall. Being able to dig right into the kitchen or relax in the living room. I just it was one of those that, like, it's so turnkey that you really don't have to think about it too much, which is amazing because obviously if you're moving, I have so much stuff with me that, like, coming here for 8 weeks, and essentially kind of moving to a different city for 2 months. There's a lot that goes into it. But Surfbreak made it so easy just to, like, slide right in and go to bed that night, which is amazing.
Talk to me, and it breaks my heart every time that I see you guys go. I'm hoping to see you again, but I am really, really into the Ohana vibe, meaning we create family, we create network, we'll celebrate with champagne or tequila or whatever it is. Every time you close a deal, tell me about the relationships at Surfbreak, the
Hmm.
vibe, people you've met.
Yeah. It's so, I guess, slide right into the community is what it feels like. I mean, you know that people come and go. That's part of it, and the people that come and go are also of the mindset, digital nomads or people exploring the world or entrepreneurs. And so when you turn right, you go down the hallway, you go into the living room, you see somebody you haven't seen before. Immediately, everyone's just sort of like, "Oh, did you just move in? Amazing. Where are you from? What do you do?" And from that moment, you know that person, and that person's cooking eggs in the morning and making coffee. And then you're running into them when you're, headed to the gym or you're hanging out in the living room. Everybody, there are times where you go in the living room and everyone is watching Love Island together. Like, and everybody's just like dug into this space. And it immediately feels like it just comes with such community of like-minded people that you really can slide in. I mean, within the first conversation, and there's no real ramp up period. There's no awkwardness. You're just like one of the crew. And then immediately people are like, oh, we're going to get pizza, or we're going to the beach. Who wants to go? We're going stargazing. And you can just sort of jump right in and be like, me. And then you're like doing stuff with people. And I think that's also amazing because being here for 8 weeks and doing so much work I mean, there's times I'm getting up at 4 and I'm getting up at 5 and 6 and I've got long days. And, as soon as you turn your brain off from working, you want to be able to do something. And when you're in different cities, sometimes when you turn your brain off, you're like, okay, I'm going to do something for me now. But then you sort of just sit in your hotel room and you're like, what
What
should
do
I
I do?
do?
Where do
Should
I
I
go?
just Google what do I do in this city? And so to have that sort of community baked in is so great because there's always things going on that you can just sort of like slide right into.
And now we'll have Stacklist, so it's even easier for you to decide what you want to do, where you want to go. We're so excited to have Kyle and Martina in our lives and make things super easier for our members. For us, Kyle, is so beautiful to see the level of humbleness people bring into this community. You guys, like you said, you are cooking eggs, you're laughing, you're watching movies, enjoying life after a hard, long day of work. Most of our members are extremely successful at what they do. They're very smart. They are thriving. They are conquering the world in the best way possible. When it comes to be a human and relax, we're all the same, like throwing jokes at each other, sweating on Run Club, just being mindful of how blessed we are with this also common mission, which is let's help the world to be a better place. That's actually our motto: leave things better than how you found it. So back to Stacklist, because I'm really fascinated with this. And in the next episodes, we'll be fascinated by other kind of companies that have been created. Even here at Surfbreak, we had people, a web developer or an engineer matching with designer and doing amazing things. We're so proud about that. We can't wait to tell you guys. But my obsession today, it's about Stacklist and Surfbreak. So tell us how this Stacklist is going to be making surf breakers, meaning our members, happier, their life easier? What we going to do with you? What's our alliances?
I think one good way to explain it is if you when you join Surfbreak and you're here, you get added to a WhatsApp group, and so now all of a sudden you're tied into this group where you can say, is anyone going to the beach today, or does anyone have any toilet paper, whatever it is,
Right,
that you can
right.
sort of ask the group. And what you see sometimes is people say, "Oh, where should I go to get a haircut?" Or does anyone know where to go get nails done? Or does anyone know where a ramen place is? And what happens is people are asking, and then people reply, "You should go to this one. You should go to that one." As soon as that one activity is sort of complete, let's say John or Sue clicks on that and goes to that place, that one recommendation is sort of gone forever. It's lost in that chat
Right, right.
thread, and that sort of local knowledge and expertise is lost in this conversation. And so in what we're going to do is we've set up a Stacklist account for both Hawaii and Mexico. That imagine someone basically comes off the elevator, they've got their suitcases, they're like, okay, I'm here. You unpack. Immediately, you're sort of like, one, I need to introduce myself and get to know some people, but also where should I go? I'm hungry. I want to get a hot dog. I want to get tacos. I want to get sushi. I need to get my hair cut. Like, where should I go to mail a package? Immediately, there's all these things that you start thinking you have to understand about the local area. So imagine you go into the living room and you scan a QR code, and it's essentially all of the things that everyone that's here is adding collectively to. And now you can search it. You can search mailing, sushi, hot dog, whatever. And you've got these really curated things that people have already said, this one's great, go to Hula Dog. I'm telling you, got to get the pineapple relish, whatever it is that like you get this like context. And then you get to participate in that by adding to it or commenting on it. And so now all of these this sort of local recommendation content hub drives the best things in and around Surfbreak. And so that's what we built and what we'll start leveraging as the knowledge repository of when people say what to do or where to go.
That is so amazing. Yeah, when you told RJ and me, we were like, "Wow, can you do this? This is fantastic." And I'm also understanding for our business, we can actually create alliances
Hmm.
once we have the stock lists, for the restaurants, dentists, hospitals, we can
Yep.
actually connect to them with them and help each other grow. That's what the app does for us. Right, right.
Yeah, imagine being able to say like, to a ramen. I mean, there's a lot of different sushi places, but to be able to say one that you know fairly well, hey, if you can also provide us with a discount, we can actually highlight or prioritize because of the members have said it's good, and this can be the place that when a new person comes in that we can bring up front, and there's also a discount. So the benefit of being able to go now sort of drives business towards the places that we have said are good and the service is nice and we like them, and they're also providing a discount, and so yeah, we can be mutually beneficial with the businesses that we interact.
I love that. Yeah. If they have a stock list, then later we're creating a beautiful network of solid companies that also act like we want, our values. We connect each other. It's all about Ohana. I love it. I have more questions. Those ones are related to the soul. That's what we love.
Hmm.
You are becoming more successful by the day. Tell me how you deal with stress, with like the anxiety. I've seen so many of you having so much in your backs, the responsibility.
Hmm.
How do you handle that?
I mean, it's definitely easier here. This is an easier place to be able to handle that when you can get outside really easily and connect with, the outdoors and with nature and go for a swim or learn how to surf or swim with the turtles. Or so it's really easy here to take on what is a lot of stress. And a lot of times as an entrepreneur, it's good stress. I mean, this is basically stress of building something that has never existed, and you're basically willing it into existence. So it's going to be stressful. But then finding times to be able to turn it off and say, I'm going to go watch the sunset, or I'm going to hike to the type of hike to the top of Diamond Head, or whatever. There are ways to do it. I will say it is harder for me to do that sometimes in a suburb of Atlanta, where it's like you're a little more, it can be a little more isolated, unless you proactively go out into the city and sort of seek these things out, or things like that. And so I really enjoy having this moment here where we can put so much concentrated effort into the business, but also kind of blow off steam really quickly and easily, just based on the location and proximity to all the things you can do here.
I love that. And that's actually one of the things that we want to make sure we insert in all of our members. This is paradise. It is true. But the mindset, go out, breathe, do exercise, eat healthy, surround yourselves with positive people. That can be actually a great, great tool to deal with the stress, especially for the kind of responsibility that you all have. And that works fantastic. It's kind of, we're training you with aloha to make sure that you also take care of yourself. I have a second question, still just to get tips from you. We are obsessed with this thing called organizational happiness, which is the neuroscience of creating organizations that are healthy, that relate to each other with love, with respect. We spend, and this is kind of scary, 90,000 hours working. That is scary. So that means that
Yeah.
if you are working, even though it's stressful, even though it's a lot of responsibility, please love what you're doing. And I've seen that your team seems to be super motivated. I'm interacting with them, building our Surfbreak Stacklist, and they all seem to have a beautiful culture. How do you do that? How do you surround yourself with good teamwork, good people? What is the key as a leader to create this beautiful, happy team?
I think you're just looking for, in the very beginning, you're just looking for similar energy, whether it be the sort of need and desire to build and grow something, but also the ability to flex, turning it on, turning it off, taking time, but then diving deep. And then also, I don't know, I guess just having a no asshole filter, where it
Love
comes
that.
to, you want to
Why
find.
is that?
Right. You want to find people that have good energy and that you don't have to like. I think I've been in so many corporate environments where you've got the people who are
Mm,
just like
mm.
dead set to to move up the ladder, and they're going to step over people, and they're going to do whatever it takes, and that sort of thing. Like if I have to spend 90,000 hours doing something, if I have to be around that sort of like, we gotta, I gotta step on your back, but I gotta go behind you, and all these sort of things, it just leads to so much toxic. It's also a bubble. It's not actually, it's kind of like the Matrix. It's like a non-reality bubble. It's all made up, and it's all this like made up sort of like uh, prioritization of things that are not actually that important, and it's so much ego, and so yeah, I think especially in the very beginning, there's a lot of gut, and working with people and being realistic about, in this day and age, I think we are so dead set on not focusing on like hiring employees for the long term, but actually finding people that we can work in small little chunks with and sort of get used to, get to know. Because the typical process of interviewing someone, you meet with them twice or three times, one time Zoom, one time in person, maybe
Yes.
not, maybe they're remote, and you think you get a good vibe for who they are. Maybe you talk to some references. You don't really know until about the second, third, fourth month, because the first month everybody's happy and we're so excited you're here, and we give you a little bit of grace, and you sort of dive in, and then you're happy too. But then month two, three, four, five, things start to come out, or you start to really find the rhythm. You want to have some flexibility for you both to be like, eh, this isn't really a great match, without it being this expectation that we have, all right, we're committing
Right.
to each other and we're going to be together for years. And that's not, might not actually be the case. You might decide to do a totally different life choice 4 months from now. And I'm going to be like, cool, great decision, go do it. But I think so. It's a lot about expectations. And then also, like, I think finding people, and using sort of your gut and your intuition and your experience for interviewing and hiring, but also just giving yourself time to actually work with the person and sort of see what's what before expecting anything, and making sure they're a good fit.
Like in a relationship, right? You don't jump right into marriage. You go to Europe for 2 months first, like you did, and
Yeah.
then you marry. I love that. I love how you talk about the gut. RJ talks about the gut a lot, and I didn't understand at the beginning, but it's listening to your body to see if your values align. You can have the most amazing person regarding work, but the soul is really not connected. That can cause you problems. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful advice. I have one last question before we jump into how do we promote Stacklist to our surf breakers and the many companies that we have as allies. How do you deal with rejection? You've starting to, like I said, become more and more successful, and that means that you had to be rejected a lot. And I see, especially the younger entrepreneurs that we host, it is hard for them when they get rejected. How
hmm
do we do that? How do we deal with the no?
I think reframing it, like everybody's looking for yes, and everybody's looking for the signal that your thing is great and that you've made the right decision, you've made the right life choice, and everyone else is going to see the magic in it, which is not really going to be the case. You're going to have to go through a long period of, especially from an entrepreneur, of shaping your messaging and talking to people, and also how you talk about it, practicing that 500,000 times and refining it. And so I think, and I get this from, I think, doing sales a long time ago, but like, if you're always looking for the yes, then you're gonna get disappointed. And your expectations are gonna be sort of, misaligned so many times. I would rather look for the no and enjoy the process of like understanding how you got there. And then if somebody says yes, you're like, oh, this is cool. Like now I'm taking in a new data point. But for a new company, like let's say that you and I just started a company yesterday and we're like, all right, we got to get out there on the streets. Let's go get some customers. Let's literally walk out the door. And the game that you and I play is let's go get 100 no's. Like don't make a sale. Don't go sell something. Just go get 100 no's and practice walking in the door. What is it that you're saying? What is it that you're offering? And watch and see when someone sort of like furrows their brow and says no soliciting or whatever. Okay, great. That's a data point. How could you have approached that in a different way that you wouldn't get such a strong reaction? Maybe I also go in and I get my hair cut. And as I'm sort of a person that is now in a chair for 20 minutes, now I've got a captive audience and I can say, hey, barber, how do you make recommendations when people ask you where to go? Well, he starts talking. Well, now I found a different way to do it. And so it's not to say I got to go get my haircut every time I want to approach somebody, but you just start finding different ways of doing it. And I'm not trying to walk in like, oh, fingers crossed. I hope I get a yes. I hope I get a yes. So I think it's reframing it more as an
Right.
experiment to find a lot of no's and to get good at the process can also just help. Because then you can find little wins when you find things that help you figure out how to refine that process.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think that's going to be super helpful because it hurts. And sometimes you take it personal and you doubt whether if what you offer in the product is worth
Yeah.
something or not. In your case, it's absolutely worth it. So let's finish this episode, our very first, telling our surf breakers and companies how they can actually, one, benefit from Stacklist, two, if we have any promotions for surf breakers, and three, how can they reach you? So explain pretty please. I'm already convinced and sold. Let's talk to
Yeah.
them. How do we
I'd
get
say
into
one of the first things is so for this episode in the show notes, we'll actually have a stack that lives on the Surfbreak account. And that stack is going to have my LinkedIn profile, Danny's, a link to the podcast, a link to the surf break and how to register, a link to Stacklist. So it's going to already have all of these sort of things that we've talked about. So that
Beautiful.
right there sort of solves the fact that, you just have all these random links and things we've talked about. There's no way to sort of save all that. So that's one way that in the show notes, there will be a stack and you can see the things that are related to this episode and you can sign up that way for free. You can also go to stacklist.app/Kyle, and that's my personal profile. So you can follow me. And then as I add new restaurants or new tech gear or new things, you can get a notification that like I've added new stuff. And then you can follow along and sort of do the same thing. Yeah. And a promotion, I'll put in the show notes, but using Surfbreak 50, using that promo code, you can just get 50% off for life. And so if you sign up, for life. And so if you get some of the premium features like being able to have collaboration or like make affiliate money off of your shared curations or set up your business or use it as a link in bio for your socials, that you can get that in in a discounted way. And then we will also be on site that we can build your profile for you. So you can send us spreadsheets, unstructured, messy notes and be like, can you just put all this stuff in our profile and we'll help get you started.
I love this. And I'm so honored to have you as our first guest because I see this growing and growing. Two more questions. The first one, how do you see this growing? It's growing. What's going to happen in the future? How do you see Stacklist?
Do one. I want to back up to the promo and then I want to cut this piece and then we'll jump to the other one because I got to get out the door in about 2 minutes. So I would say let's cut this piece. We'll end with like the promo and then from right after I clap, I'll cut it and then let's just do the wrap. Okay.
Talk to us about the promo.
So I think we're already good with the promo. It'll just be your reaction to the promo and then we'll wrap.
So I'm wrapping right now, right?
Yeah, just final reaction to the promo and then we'll wrap.
That's amazing for life. Okay, this is fantastic. Last words, whatever it's in your heart, we're so honored to have you. Kyle, it's a pleasure. We want to hear the last words before you leave Hawaii in a couple of days, but whatever it is in your heart, please.
Oh, come join the Surfbreak family. It's so amazing. Once you're in, you can just feel that you're in and you sort of have this group and this community that you're always connected with. And take the leap, come have the experience. It's something that you will never regret and you're always gonna sort of cherish as one of the key things that you did in life.
We are more than honored to have you. We'll have Martina very soon. For all our surf breakers, aloha, we're waiting for you. Come back home. For the new ones, we are waiting open arms also in Mexico. Have a good day. Aloha, everyone. We're good.